welcome. My name is Kelly and this is Friendly Fables, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Li. And for those of you who haven't read it, or it's been a while since you've read it, it's essentially a book about 5 friends that are hired by a Chinese benefactor to steal back Chinese zodiac hats from various museums around the world. So it's a book about history, art, colonialism, and the role that it plays in art. I actually really love the synopsis in the back of the book. It says, "Histories told by the conquerors across the Western world. Museums display the spoils of war, of conquest, of colonialism, priceless pieces of art looted from other countries and kept even now." And it's a book about these 5 college students trying to steal back these Chinese zodiac heads and exploring their connection to this Chinese art and to China themselves as being children of immigrants. I will be getting into spoilers from now on, so if you haven't read the book, now would be the time to leave. But I really enjoyed this book. 5 out of 5 stars for me. One of the biggest reasons why is because they were not good thieves. I know that in a book of theft, like you want them to succeed. They still did succeed, as we know, but not in the way that I thought it was gonna go. I really thought that they were gonna miraculously be really good at stealing from these really high and like high-tech security museums that like are used to like professional thieves, and they were just gonna do it, and it was just gonna be us following them through stealing the various zodiac heads and like getting away with it. And they do get away with it, but I really like that it wasn't because they were good thieves. Like, they got caught, and that's what they used. Like, they used that to their advantage. Like, they were like, we're gonna get caught, guys, because we're not actually professional thieves. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, Alex, as we know, like, the hacker is like, I'm actually not a hacker. I'm good with certain things, but hacking is not actually one of them. So calling me a hacker is a little far-fetched. She does eventually crack into the FBI and everything. But I like that it wasn't like they're just like instantly good at this stuff and like they totally got away with it. No, they get one like successful theft, right? They steal the first zodiac head. Will makes the fake one to replace it with, and then they're off. And then they go to steal the second one, but the other group takes it first, and then, you know, from there, like, it starts to dissolve, and they get caught. Daniel's dad catches them, and they're like, oh, we have to stop, and Irene does the thing that Irene does, with getting Alex to delete all of their info and everything. But like, and at that point, you're like, dang, I guess that we're just not gonna get these Chinese zodiac heads back to China. But no, they still do it, just using the fact that they don't know how to steal to their advantage. And I loved that the reveal that Lily and Will, the way that my brain. Anyway, the way that Lily and Will steal those documents and then publish that article, and that's how they get it back, because the museums have to save face and send it back to China, otherwise they look not great. I thought that was so good. Like, it really used social media to their advantage. It used the times that this was sent into their advantage. They used the fact that they didn't know how to be thieves to their advantage. Like, it was really well crafted. And it really surprised me, because it's not like I wouldn't have enjoyed reading these 5 college kids like beating like the system and stealing from these museums and just being great thieves. I'm sure that would have been enjoyable in its own right, but them sucking at it and that being the thing that helps them, loved it. I really love that. I really love that point. Or the way that was crafted. I also really enjoyed, because this book is about children of the diaspora, right? That's something that's repeated over and over throughout the book, is that they're children of the diaspora and the relationship that they have to China and to this art, and why it is that each individual is participating in this heist, right? You have Irene, who's really only doing it for Will and Daniel, and she doesn't really feel connection or the need to save this art for China in the same way that Will does, right? Like Will is very much like, no, like I'm Chinese, this is Chinese art and it belongs in China, and like I want to do this because this is my culture, and he is very protective of it, because he does still have those ties. And then you have someone like Lily, who, because of the area that she grew up in, with her parents having to assimilate and her being cut off from her culture and really never had been to China except for that first time when we meet the Chinese benefactor, she has no connection, right? She's like, her arc is very much like, I'm here really because of the money, in the same way that Alex is. I'm here for the money, because they're the ones that are, well, Alex is a little more connected because of her parents, but Lily specifically, it has that distance, and she's just really there for the money. But in being around Will and Daniel and going to China and being with them and really reconnecting with that culture, her finding her way back to it, something that she thought she was cut off of. And then you have someone like Alex, who is, she's very much that like Chinese American, where she feels that she is both and she doesn't really know how to navigate either. And the way that she got a job for the sake of like, money, because she wanted to support her family. All the different relationships that these well, no, they're adults because they're in college. Although, when I was in college, I would still consider myself a kid, which is why I'm inclined to call them kids. But these college people, I keep wanting to say kids. They are so in college. Anyway, these college guys, the way that they all have different connections and various degrees of love and again, connection to their culture, I just found very, very beautiful, and I personally connected with it because me being, the child of immigrants, also being a children of the diaspora, and my connection to Mexico, and its culture is very different than someone who is born in Mexico, who goes there regularly. Like I haven't, I don't count it because I was there when I was a child, like an infant toddler, but then my parents came back when my second brother when my brother was going to be born. I don't know why I say that second, because we bounced a lot around when I was still like a child, but definitely not enough for me to remember. So like I don't really say that I've been to Mexico, even though technically I've physically been there, because I don't remember physically being there. But I did still grow up in LA and in California, which, you can get around speaking Spanish pretty easily depending on the area that you're in, and especially in LA. So I still had the privilege of being around a lot of people that spoke Spanish, being around a lot of Mexicans, but also, with my parents really cutting off their connections to their families, I was also kind of cut off myself from the culture. So it really wasn't until college that I started reconnecting with those roots and being really, what's the word I'm looking for? Conscious about how I interact with my heritage and with my roots, and learning more about the history and finding myself again and being connected to that. Which again, that's why Lily was one of my favorite characters, because in her experience, with her, she also, was a little disconnected from that. And by the end, she was a lot more connected, and, they planned this trip. They're all going to go to China, and she's finally going to go and have time to spend there. I myself am also going to have the privilege soon of being able to go to Mexico and finally spend time there. But yeah, it was a really, really good book. I definitely recommend the conversations that are had about, again, colonization and the art theft that happens to a lot of our cultures, right? Me being Mexican, I know that there's a lot of Mexica and Aztec artifacts in museums, not in Mexico where they should be. Same with my best friend Jay, who's talked about his parents and his family aren't from India, and how a lot of their artifacts and their art aren't where they're supposed to be, right? They're in the British museums and in museums here in the States. So the book does a really good job of talking about what that means for us as people who have been colonized by the British and other world powers, and how devastating it can be to know that these artifacts are being stored in places where they don't belong, and they're not, you know, they're owned by these people, but really they're stolen. And something that Will says a lot in the book is that he's not stealing these necessarily because they're not them. He's just taking back what belongs to China. But yeah, definitely 5 out of 5 stars. I did listen to the audiobook. I definitely recommend listening to the audiobook because, as I mentioned, there are 5 different point of views. Everyone gets their own POV, and whatchamacallit, it's narrated by 2 people, right? One for Alex and Lily and Irene, and then one for Will and Daniel. And great book, really recommend. Oh, and that reminds me, Irene was also one of my favorite characters, and her relationship with Alex was amazing. The way that developed was so cool, because obviously as like the reader, you saw that shit miles away. You caught on, but it was still really cool to see the way that they developed and the way that they slowly started breaking down the assumptions and expectations they had expected of the other, and really letting the other in and seeing the real person behind all these assumptions and expectations they had placed on them. It was really good. For their relationship alone, I recommend. It was a chef's kiss. Lily and Will were cute too. They were cute too. I do think it's really funny that Daniel's kind of just there at the end. That reminds me, Daniel and his relationship with his dad, I thought was spectacular as well. I think, you know, the way that his dad reacted after Daniel's mom's died, with that like distance and not really know how to have a relationship with Daniel, and like Daniel like really missing his dad but also not knowing how to connect. I thought that relationship was really well developed. I think every character was really well developed, and their own individual stories, each of them was crafted with care, love, and attention. And so if you want a book about art theft and awesome relationships and talking about being children of the diaspora and art and colonialism and all that, I definitely recommend Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. It's 5 out of 5 for me. But yeah, that's just my quick little review of Portrait of a Thief. Catch you guys later. Hope you guys have a good weekend, because when I'm uploading this, no, I'm making this on Friday, so by the time I've uploaded it, it might not even be the weekend anymore. But yeah, catch you guys next time. If you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.